كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون وجعلنا في الأرض رواسي أن تميد بهم وجعلنا فيها فجاجا سبلا وجعلنا فيها فجاجا سبلا لعلهم يهتدون وجعلنا السماء سقفا محفوظا وجعلنا السماء سقفا محفوظا وهم عن آياتها معرضون وهو الذي خلق الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر وهو الذي خلق الليل والنهار والشمس والقمر كل في فلك يسبحون وما جعلنا لبشر من قبلك الخلد أفإن مت فهم الخالدون وما جعلنا لبشر من قبلك الخلد أفإن مت فهم الخالدون كل نفس ذائقة الموت كل نفس ذائقة الموت كل نفس ذائقة الموت ونبلوكم بالشر والخير فتنة وإلينا ترجعون. وإذا رآك الذين كفروا يتخذونك إلا هزوا أهذا الذي يذكر آلهتكم وهم بذكر الرحمن هم كافرون. أهذا الذي يذكر آلهتكم وهم بذكر الرحمن هم كافرون. أهذا الذي يذكر آلهتكم وهم بذكر الرحمن هم كافرون. خلق الإنسان من عجل خلق الإنسان من عجل خلق الإنسان من عجل سأريكم آياتي فلا تستعجلون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. اللهم صل وسلم وزد وبارك على رسول الله وآله الأطهار على رسول الله وآله الأطهار. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على
أحسنت. لبيك يا حسين 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 وانقابنا ولي called Ibn Murtada,
seeking to get allegiance for Ibn Muawiyah.
parting his holy lips, Mawla said, O Walid,
Never can this Hussain give bay'ah to that Yazid.
cause I am Al-Hussain, grandson of Mustafa, pride of the Ahl Bayt, warith of Anbiya. Labbaika ya Hussain. Please join us. Labbaika ya Hussain. Labbaika ya Hussain. Labbaika ya Hussain. Next to the holy grave in Masjid-un-Nabi,
Mawla begins to weep and relay his tragedy.
O Nana Mustafa, I come to you to part.
Your ummah has again torn its covenant apart.
Patient is but Hussain, son of your Fatima, pride of the Ahl Bayt, warith of Anbiya. Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain. Everyone. Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain. When Hani and Sa'id brought letters of support,
Muslim was sent to Kufa to probe it and report.
Mawla said, if they want me as their Imam,
then I will go to Kufa, so Hujjat is tamam.
cause this is Al-Hussain, grandson of Mustafa, pride of the Ahl Bayt, warith of Anbiya. Labbaika ya Hussain. Everyone. Labbaika ya Hussain. Labbaika ya Hussain.
Labbaika ya Hussain.
But when his caravan stepped into Nanawa,
Mawla was apprehended by Fawj-e Ashqiya.
next to river Furat, Mawla set up Khayyam,
And to the land around him directed this kalam.
Hadir is Al-Hussain, O Dasht-e Karbala, pride of the Ahl Bayt, warith of Anbiya. Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain,
Labbaika ya Hussain.
Everyone.
Labbaika ya
Hussain. Their target is Hussain, this Laylatul Bala.
Your lives you should save them my loyal awliya.
Gathered in his khayyam, said Lashkar-e-Imam,
never will we abandon you with the Fauj Sham.
'Cause you are Al-Hussain, grandson of Mustafa, pride of the Ahl Bayt, warith of Anbiya. 'Cause you are Al-Hussain, grandson of Mustafa, pride of the Ahl Bayt, warith of Anbiya. Everyone, Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain, Labbaika ya Hussain. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Mu'mineen and Mu'minat, welcome again to this third of the series of 9 majalis on the topic of Karbala, the ultimate trial. I will now request Hujjatul Islam, Moulana Syed Ali Aqib Jaffry, to come to the mimbar and recite the third of this series of majalis. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. For the acceptance of this majlis and for the marhumeen of the sponsors of this majlis, Suratul Fatiha. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء والمرسلين وخاتم النبيين سيدنا ونبينا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين الغر الميامين المعصومين من يومنا هذا إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله تبارك وتعالى في كتابه المجيد وخطابه المتين وهو أصدق القائلين وقوله الحق. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أحسب الناس أن يتركوا أن يقولوا آمنا وهم لا يفتنون. Salawat. One of the principles of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we all are subjected to and we all have to go through is the sunnah of examination, is the sunnah of being tested. We are being tested not only through musibah and hardship, but we are also tested through blessings and ni'mah. We are being tested through khair and we are being tested through shar as well. Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut nabluukum bish-sharri wal khairi fitnatan. We will test you with shar, we will test you with the khair. If you are facing hardships in your life, it is not necessarily a sign that Allah is upset with you. If you're facing abundance of wealth and you are steeped in blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, again it is not necessarily a sign that Allah is pleased with you. They are both signs that in one case you are being tested for sabr, and in the other case you are being tested for shukr. It is the outcome of your actions in those tests that will determine whether Allah is pleased with you or displeased with you. If you exercise sabr in trials and difficulties, Allah will be pleased with you. And if you exercise shukr in blessings, only then you can be sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will be happy with you and you have fulfilled your duty in this test. And generally the test of shukr, all things aside, the test of shukr is a difficult one than the test of sabr. Because in hardships, you are being deprived of the blessings, your connection with this material world is severed. And that helps you get closer to your inner fitrah and connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You think what you have done wrong in the past for which you might be in this state. You introspect. But when you are steeped in blessings and you are living a blessed life, it is generally accompanied with ghafla. It is generally accompanied with a state where you tend to ignore your responsibilities. Blessings comes with additional responsibilities, and most people fail to fulfill those additional responsibilities that come with those blessings. That is why it is said that on the day of judgment, everyone will wish that they were given only what they needed to stay alive in this dunya. The very basic necessities they would wish. Because most of the people would have failed to fulfill the obligations that come with these challenges. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will test all of us. He tested his awliya, and the purpose of his test is not to know for himself. The purpose of his test is to help us grow. When you look at the Holy Quran, we find that in different verses, you will find different reasons mentioned behind the purpose of creation. In one verse it says, خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةِ لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. To test which one from amongst you does the best of the deeds. In another verse it says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسِ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. The purpose of creation there is ibadat. The purpose of creation here is being to test. In one of the traditions which I think I've repeated last year and the year before that, Imam Hussain alayhi salatu was salam comes to his companions and he says, Inna Allah azza wa jal dhikru ma khalaqa al-ibad illa liya'rifu. Allah did not create His servants except that they should know Him. The purpose of creation according to Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam is that they should have the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These all apparently different reasons are interconnected. They are linked. Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam in the very next verse, very next phrase explains that connection. He says, فَإِذَا عَرَفُوهُ عَبَدُوهُ. When they will have His ma'rifah, they will worship Him. So ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing your Lord, is the stepping stone, is the starting point. It is through ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will happen. You cannot worship someone you do not know. You cannot love someone you do not know. And the Imam continues, فَإِذَا عَبَدُوهُ. And when they will worship Him, what will happen? إِسْتَغْنَوْا بِعِبَادَتِهِ أَنْ عِبَادَةِ مَا سِوَاهُ. Through His worship, they will become free of worshipping others. Freedom from others. Everybody in this world today wants to be free. The only freedom that you can achieve is freedom from everything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You cannot free yourselves from your dependence on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For it is your dependence, it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whom you depend on for your very existence, for your rizq, for your knowledge, for your life, for everything that you have. So you cannot free yourself from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But yes, Islam wants you to be free from every other dependency on anything other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that is why this religion has come. That is one of the messages of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam on the day of Ashura. In lam yakun lakum deen wa la takhafun al-ma'ad fakunu ahraran fi dunyakum. If you do not have religion and you do not fear the day of judgment, talking to the Ashqiya, he said, at least be free men in this dunya. The message of freedom comes from Islam. Islam is here to free humanity from slavery of their own selves, slavery of others, slavery of desires, and submit to Allah alone. So the purpose of creation in some verses, ibadat. In other traditions, ma'rifah. In other places, ita'at of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in this verse, test and examination. In other words, it says, we created man from nutfatin amshaj nabtalihi. Created man from a mixture of fluid, nabtalihi, we will test him. It is through these tests that man gets the opportunity to grow. In philosophical terms, the purpose of our creation is that we should reach our perfection. We have been given the potential to become perfect individuals, perfect humans. And the path to perfection is the path of Islam. So we are all, and in order to motivate us in this direction, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instilled in us the love of perfection. We all love perfection. There would not be a single person in this room who would say, I do not like perfection. If there are any imperfections in you, you would be interested in getting rid of those imperfections. That is why you wear good clothes, because Or if there's a spot on your cloth, you would like to get rid of that spot. Because you love perfection. And if you can't, you would like to hide it. You would like to hide it. Similarly, with any handicap that your body has, you would like to get rid of it, and if you can't, you will hide it. Same goes with spiritual defects. If you are a miser, you would not like to be called a miser. If you can get rid of the disease, you will. If you can't, you would resort to techniques so that you're not called a miser. You would resort to giving in public so that you're not called a miser. You would resort to riyakari, to show people that you possess this trait whereas you don't. These are all signs that you love perfection. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has instilled in us the love of perfection. Why? So that we could move towards perfection. This love of perfection that we all feel within ourselves is actually the love of Allah Himself. Because He is the most perfect being. And He is the absolute perfection. So when we love, when we feel the love of perfection within ourselves, it is the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we feel within ourselves, and we are driven towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we move towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in order to guide us in this journey, He has installed certain perfect humans in this way, who take us on our journey towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it is this journey towards perfection, this path that leads humans to their perfection, that was in danger in the time of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wasalam. That is why he stood up to protect this journey, this path that humanity would need till the day of judgment. The path that was needed. And this is something for all Muslims to think, that if there was anyone on the face of earth that had a claim of being the Khalifatullah, if there was anyone on the face of earth in the time of Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam who had the claim of being the Janasheen Rasulullah in the true sense, you would have seen him in Karbala. Because in Karbala, Islam was in danger. And if there was anyone who qualified to be the Janasheen of Allah, he would have stepped up to save the religion of Islam. And there is no one in Karbala other than Imam Hussain. This is enough of an evidence to know who the true representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is on the face of earth. So Allah created us so that we could get closer to Him. When He puts us through these trials, the trial of difficulty, the trial of blessings, He's actually giving us an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to get closer to Him through sabr or through shukr. This is an opportunity to worship Him. This is an opportunity to be obedient to Him. So when you look, or if you want to translate the word ibtala or examination, another equivalent would be an opportunity. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that we will give you opportunities. The test is an opportunity to grow through sickness, through khair, through shar. When Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam was given what he wanted from Allah, he prayed for a kingdom that no one would be blessed with. And he was given that kingdom. And as a result, some of the Mufassirin say that as a result of that blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Prophet Sulaiman, salamullah alayh, is going to be the last among all the prophets to enter paradise. Because of the accountability that will come with that kingdom. Our Prophet was also given a similar opportunity. The tradition has that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent a grand angel to the Holy Prophet, who sent his salams on the Holy Prophet and said, Allah is asking that if you prefer, if you wish, Allah can turn this whole desert into gold for you. Pure Sahara ko sone mein badal sakta hai. The Holy Prophet did not accept that offer and said, Aju'u yawman فأسألك وأشبع يوما فأحمدك. I wish to stay hungry one day and ask Allah for food. And I wish to be full the other day and thank Allah for His blessings. मैं चाहता हूँ एक दिन भूखा रहूं, खुदा से मांगू, एक दिन पेट भरा हो, खुदा का शुक्र अदा करूं. The Holy Prophet rejected that. He did not reject it for himself, he rejected us for our sake. Despite living a simple lifestyle, look at his ummah, how deeply involved they are in the love of this dunya. Imagine if the Holy Prophet was blessed with kingdom and gold and all the riches of the world. What would happen to his ummah? Keeping the prophets of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this state, it's another test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Inshallah, we'll get to that in the coming days. Why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not appoint prophets with riches and angels and mansions and cars? One of the youths was asking a question a few days ago. He said, why is it that people are not interested in spending money on their religion? And then he said, I think I know the answer. He said, if the ulama had cars and mansions and protocol, people would run after them. In other words, if ulama were celebrities, everybody would be attracted to religion. That is true. People would be more attracted to religion if ulama were. The mushrikeen of Mecca had the same objection to the Holy Prophet. If Allah wanted to choose a prophet, why did He not appoint this rich man as a prophet? It was easier to submit to someone of this certain social status and a certain background that you're more fond of. But Allah did not decide, Allah did not choose to do so for a special reason. Inshallah, we'll get to that in the coming days. When Hazrat Sulaiman ﷺ was tested and he asked, which one from amongst you is able to bring the takht of Bilqis, the throne of Bilqis, a jinn stood up. He said, I am able to that before your session ends. وَقَالَ الَّذِي إِنَّهُ إِلْمٌ مِّنَ الْكِتَابِ. And the person, Asif bin Barqiyah, who had a little knowledge of the book, قَالَ الَّذِي إِنَّهُ إِلْمٌ مِّنَ الْكِتَابِ, who had a little knowledge of the book. What did he say? أَنَا آتِيكَ بِهِ قَبْلَ أَنْ يَرْتَدَّ إِلَيْكَ طَرْفُكَ. I can bring it to you even before the winking of your eye. And it is said that before he closed his eyes, he saw the throne right there and then. At that point, the Quran narrates, he said, هَذَا مِنْ فَضْلِ رَبِّي. This is the fazl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on me. Why? لِيَبْلُوَنِي أَشْكُرُ أَمْ أَكْفُرُ. So that He should test me whether I do shukr or I do kufr. So with all these blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the manifestations and the zuhur of these blessings, the Prophet knows that he is being tested even in this state. So if you have authority over people, you're being tested. You have wealth, you're being tested. You have health, You're being tested. And Amirul Mu'minin as-salatu was-salam, please try to salawat. He narrated this event yesterday, this story yesterday, and I will repeat it today. When he woke up and he was sick and his companions came to see him and they asked him, Kaifa asbahata? Subh kis halat mein kiya apne? How are you? He replied, Asbahato bishar. Shar ke saath subah ki hai. Shar ki halat mein subah ki hai. And they were surprised and they said, Subhanallah, haza kalamu mithlik. ये आप जैसों का कलाम है, यानी आप जैसी शख्सियत ऐसी बात कर रहे हैं. The likes of you saying this. And the Imam repeated this verse of the Holy Quran, Nablukum bisharri wal khayri fitnatan. And then he said, shar means sickness and poverty. So two prime examples of shar through which we will be tested. It is narrated that in the final days of Jabir bin Abdullah Ansari, a great companion of the Holy Prophet, and who was blessed with the company of 5 Imams. 5 Imams, till Imam Baqir alayhi salam, he was alive. Sallu ala Muhammad wa awli Muhammad. He, in his old days, he lost his physical strength and he was old and was incapable. The 5th Imam visited him and asked him about his state. Look at his response. He said, Ana fi halatin uhibbu fiha ash-shaykhuha ala-shabab. I'm in a state in which I love old age more than youth. मुझे बुढ़ापा अजीज है जवानी से. वल मर्ज अल सेहा, and sickness over health. वल मौत अल हयात, और मौत को हयात पर तरजीह देता हूं. This is a companion who has been in the company of 5 Imams and the Holy Prophet, a great companion. When the Imam responded to him, he says, Amma ana ya Jabir, but Jabir, we the Ahlul Bayt, parenthesis in my own words, we are not like that. فَإِن جَعَلَنِي شَيْخًا أُحِبُّ الشَّيْخُوخَ. अगर खुदा हमें बुढ़ापे में रखे, हमें बुढ़ापा पसंद है. अगर खुदा हमें जवानी अता करे, हम जवानी को दोस्त रखते हैं. अगर खुदा हमें फ़क्र अता करे, हम फ़क्र को दोस्त रखते हैं. अगर खुदा हमें माल अता करे, हम उस हालत को दोस्त रखते हैं. अगर खुदा हमें जिंदा रखे, हम जिंदगी को पसंद करते हैं. अगर खुदा हमें मौत दे दे, हम मौत को पसंद करते हैं. So Jabir preferred bala and musibat over ni'mah. Imam said, we're not like that. We the Ahlul Bayt, we like whatever state God puts us in, God keeps us in. If He gives us poverty, we like poverty. If He keeps us wealthy, we will prefer that. They don't have a preference of their own. These are the Ahlul Bayt. And inshallah, eventually, if God allows and gives us the tawfiq, we will see that if we knew the wisdom behind certain musibats falling on us, we will resort to shukr instead of sabr. Inshallah, I pray that we get the opportunity to clearly explain and expand on this. So when Imam said that, in ja'alani shaykhan, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala ja'alani shaykhan, uhibbu shaykhuka, wa in ja'alani sha'abban, uhibbu shaybuba. Jo khuda ko pasand ho, whatever He wishes for us, we prefer that. When Jabir heard this, He kissed the forehead of Imam Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam and he said, Sadaqa. After kissing the forehead, he said, Sadaqa Rasulullah. The Holy Prophet was right. He said, O Jabir, you will meet one of my sons whose name is the same as my name, and he will split open knowledge just like an ox who splits open the fields. And that is why he was named Baqiru ilmil awwalina wal akhirin. Because he splits open knowledge just as an ox plows the field and opens up the earth. In another story, we see that the Imam came to see, or the companion, or one of the companions came to see the Imam, and the Imam asked him, why are you upset? He said, I have been blessed with a child. It's a girl. And the Imam asked him, consoled him, saying, if Allah was to say to you, you have a choice, I can pick the gender of your child, or you decide to pick the gender of your child, what would you say to God? Allow me to decide the gender of your child, or you decide the gender for yourself? What would you do? He said, I would let Allah choose the gender of my child. He said, well, then Allah has chosen a girl for you. Then Allah has chosen a girl for you. Sometimes we don't know what is in our benefit. And then in that story, the Imam refers to the verse of the story of Hazrat Musa alayhi salatu wasalam and Prophet Khizr. You know the story in detail. I will not go in detail the whole story. But for those of my youth here who might not know the story, I'll just quickly summarize the story and get to where I want to emphasize. So Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam at one point thought that there is no one more knowledgeable than him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked him to go and meet Hazrat Khizr alayhi salatu wasalam. So when he meets Hazrat Khizr and he proposes that he wants to learn from him, Prophet Khizr said, you do not have the sabr to be with me. And he insisted and he said, okay, I will allow you to be with me only if you do not ask any questions. So that was the deal. So they embarked on a ship, and as the ship started to move, Prophet Khizr made a hole in the ship. And Prophet Musa alayhi salatu wasalam objected, what are you doing? You are damaging the ship. And Prophet Khizr said, well, the deal was that you're not going to ask questions until I disclose the reasons behind them myself at the right time. The Prophet could not resist that. He apologized and they continued. And then they came across a city and he saw a youth and he killed the youth. And Prophet Musa again objected. What wrong has he done? Why did you kill him? He hasn't committed a crime. And the Prophet Khizr alayhi salatu wasalam said, you were supposed to stay silent. And he was given one more chance. He had one more chance, one last chance, and if I speak, if I object, then we can part. They happened to pass through another city, and the people of that city were very stingy and very inhospitable. They requested for food, they requested their hospitality, but they refused. And while they were leaving the city, they saw a wall that was falling, and they decided to build it up, and they erected that wall. And Prophet Musa again objected, had you taken wages or salary for building this wall, we would have at least had something to eat. And Prophet Khizr said, well, this is our departing point. You were not able to do sabr on what I was doing. And then he disclosed the reasons behind it. And the Holy Quran narrates those reasons. The Holy Quran says, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. He said, Qala haza firaqu bayni wa baynik. This is the separation between me and you. And I'm going to tell you the hidden realities of what over which you could not do sabr. Amma safina. And I'm going to connect this to trials as well. Amma safina, the ship, fakanat le masakin. That belonged to the miskin people. That belonged to the poor people. Ya'maluna fil bahr. They worked in the ocean. Fa'aradtu an aibaha. I decided to create a fault in it. I decided to make it defective. وَكَانَ وَرَاءَهُمْ مَلِكٌ. And ahead there is a king, يَأْخُذُ كُلَّ سَفِينَةٍ غَصْبًا, who is confiscating all the ships without no reason. So I decided to cause a defect in this ship so that their ship is not confiscated. So this is the reason why he chose to cause a defect in that ship. When those whose ships were got the defect, they were required to do sabr over this musibah. For them, this is a musibah, right? But if they were told that because of this musibah you have saved your entire ship, are they going to do sabr now? Or are they going to thank Prophet Khizr? They will be thankful to Prophet Khizr for doing what he did. That's why I said that if we know the wisdoms and the realities and the ta'wil of the musibah that comes to us, it is possible that we would end up doing shukr instead of sabr. Then he goes ahead, wa ammal ghulam, the child that he killed, fakana abawahu mu'minain, their parents were mu'mins. فَخَشِينَا أَن يُرْهِقَهُمَا طُغْيَانًا وَكُفْرًا. And we feared that because of that child, those moments could end up in kufr and tughyan. فَأَرَدْنَا أَن يُبْدِلَهُمَا رَبُّهُمَا خَيْرًا مِنْهُ زَكَاةً وَأَقْرَبَ رُحْمًا. So there we decided that their Lord was going to replace that child with another child that is better. خَيْرًا مِنْهُ zakatan in terms of purity and in terms of rahm, in terms of expressing the love, being more caring to and affectionate towards their parents. And then the Imam replied that these parents were blessed with a daughter from whose lineage 70 prophets were born. बेटा ले लिया, बेटी अता की, और उस बेटी की नस्ल में 70 नबियों को रखा. Was that boy better or this girl? If those parents knew the ta'wil of this action, of this musibah, would they do sabr or would they do shukr? That is why you see when the Holy Prophet had informed Amirul Mu'minin salatu wassalam that you will be martyred, and when the battle of Badr came and the battle happened and there were casualties on both sides, or it was the battle of Badr or the battle of Uhud, and there were casualties on both sides, and Imam Ali salatu wassalam was expecting martyrdom and he did not got shaheed. He came to the Holy Prophet, disturbed. The Holy Prophet, you had promised martyrdom. I was deprived of martyrdom. And the Holy Prophet said, how are you going to do sabr on your shahada? He said, Laysa haza min mawatan is sabr, haza min mawatan is shukr. This is not the state of sabr, this is the state of shukr. For the Ahlul Bayt, and even for us, if we know the ta'wil of the musibat, of the hardships that fall upon us, we would do shukr over it. And why did Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tried and protected those parents from potential kufr because they were mu'mineen. The verse says, فَكَانَ أَبَوَاهُ مُؤْمِنَيْن. Their parents were mu'mineen. So if you are a mu'min, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take measures to protect your iman. It might be by taking your child away from you. It might be by keeping you childless. If you are a mu'min and you deserve to go to Jannah, and there is a fear that because of wealth and authority and position and status or fame or whatever, there is a likelihood that you would end up in hell, then because of your iman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to protect you and deprive you of that blessing that you wish. And the final, وَأَمَّا الْجِدَارِ, the wall, فَكَانَ لِغُلَامَيْن, it belonged to two children, two youth, yatimain, who were yatim fil Madina, وَكَانَ تَحْتَهُ كَنْزٌ لَهُمَا, and there was a treasure hidden beneath that wall. And Allah wanted that the wall be erected and the treasure be preserved, so that when they grow up, they get access, they use that for their livelihood. Again here, why is Allah protecting the mal of those two yatims? We need to get more acquainted and more familiar with this book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The stories in this book are the best of the stories. They are there to guide us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The holy verse says, itself narrates the reason, وَكَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, their father was a salih person. So if you are worried about the future of your children, about the financial security of your children, if you are worried about their spiritual security in future, the clue is right here. كَانَ أَبُوهُمَا صَالِحًا, their father was a salih person, and because of the good nature and piety of their father, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent two prophets like Prophet Khidr and Prophet Musa to protect their assets. Iman. Amal salih. So you do your part, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do His part. This is a beautiful story of Prophet Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam. He saw an ant walking towards the sea. This is narrated in Biharul Anwar. An ant walking towards, and I'm narrating this story because in one of my tabligh trips, a person asked this question. He said, there's a family here and their child is a special child. He cannot hear and he cannot talk. So there's no way communication can take place. And he said that recently he had ear infection and he couldn't inform his parents and they didn't realize, and they went to the doctor and the doctor said it's been weeks and you're very late. And he said he's really worried that if we pass away, who is going to look after my child? Because we know him better than anybody else, and if we pass away, who is going to look after that child? In that context, I'm going to narrate this story because we all go through these hardships in life. So Prophet Sulaiman sees an ant holding a grain in his mouth, walking towards the sea. So this was very strange for him, walking towards the sea. The ant can't swim. When he reaches the edge of the ocean, a frog comes out of the ocean and it opens his mouth. And this ant goes into the mouth of the frog. The frog closes his mouth and goes into the water. This is even more surprising for him. After some time, he saw that frog comes out of the water again, opens the mouth, and the ant walks out of the mouth without the grain. without the grain. So Prophet Sulaiman stops the ant and asks him this question, what is the story? What is going on? And the ant says that in the depths of this ocean, there is a stone. And in the middle of the stone, there is a blind worm who cannot acquire his livelihood. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has appointed me to take a grain for him, in bracket every day, and he has appointed this frog to carry me to the depths of the ocean, to that stone, and he opens his mouth there, and he cannot eat me by the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He leaves me there, I go in that stone, I feed or I give that grain to that worm, and then this frog brings me out of the water. Prophet Sulaiman was surprised, and he asked another question, interesting question. He said, did you hear to the tasbih of that worm? What was that? What tasbih was that worm saying? And he said, yes, he had a tasbih. And the tasbih was, Ya man la yansani fi jawfi hazihi sakhra tahta hazihi lujja. O one who has not forgotten me in the depths of the ocean, in the middle of the stone, birizqika, with his risk. वो जिसने मेरे रिस्क को इस पत्थर के पेट के अंदर, समुंदर की तह के अंदर मेरे रिस्क को फरामोश नहीं किया. ला तंसा इबादकल मुमिनीन बिरहमतिक. Do not forget your mu'min servants with your rahmah. This is the dua of that worm in the middle. The rahmat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will reach the mu'mineens, either through musibah or either through hardships. Hardships and musibahs are evident, are imminent in our lives. And to expect that we are not being tested with them will not happen. And the trial and difficulty will depend on the nature of the circumstances and your capabilities. La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah will not burden you with what you cannot tolerate. And by looking at the level of difficulty the person is facing, looking at the imtihan that a person is going through, you can have a guess of the abilities and the potential that exists within that person. The Holy Prophet said to Imam Hussain alayhi salatu wassalam that there are certain stations that you cannot acquire until you go through martyrdom. There are certain stations that await you that you can only reach only and only through martyrdom. Today is the 3rd of Muharram. On the 2nd of Muharram, this caravan reached the land of Karbala. When Imam Hussain was leaving Medina, there were a lot of people who had come to advise the Imam to abandon this journey. And in response, we find different answers given by the Imam. In one response, he says that the Holy Prophet has said, whenever Islam is in danger, you have to sacrifice everything to protect Islam. When Marwan, after the night when he was invited to the palace of Walid, Marwan tried to advise the Imam, why don't you save your life by doing bay'ah? The Imam responded, وَعَلَى الْإِسْلَامِ السَّلَامِ إِذْ قَدْ بُلِيَتِ الْأُمَّةُ بِرَاءٍ مِثْلِ يَزِيدٍ. Then we should say goodbye to Islam if the reins of the Ummah falls in the hands of someone like Yazid. Islam ko khudafiz keh dein. This was the test of the wali of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the face of earth. Islam is in danger. Is this wali going to sacrifice everything to save Islam? And here, if God wanted, or if Imam Hussain wanted, he could have used all his influence and his miracles to kill Yazid. But the purpose of this movement was not to kill Yazid. The purpose of this movement was to kill Yazidiyat. That is what he wanted. In the very same way when Hazrat Ibrahim ﷺ went and broke the idols, he kept one idol alive. He did not break the biggest of them. Why? Because he did not intend to break idols. He wanted to finish idol worship. So he let him live so that they could have a dialogue and he could invoke their minds and challenge them into thinking that what they are doing is wrong. Here similarly, Imam Hussain ﷺ had realized that this battle is not going to be won with sword. He knew that very well. And he knew that whether he went on this journey or he did not go on this journey, he is going to be killed. He also knew that. So he orchestrated Karbala in a manner where he could make the most of his death. And he let Yazid live so that Yazidiyat could be killed. And that is why even today you hear these slogans, Yazidiyat, Murdabad, and Husainiyat, Zindabad. Because of the way Imam Hussain ﷺ set up Karbala. Another response that you get, Imam said, even if you want to go, do not take the women and children with you. Imam responded, even if I want to leave them behind, they are not ready to stay behind. In another statement he said, while God is testing me, they are also being tested. This is a test for me and for them. When he was stopped by Hur during his journey towards Karbala, when he was 2 stops away from Kufa, when he was going towards Kufa, because the people of Kufa had invited him. And it had become obligatory on the Hujjat of Allah to accept their call. When he was 2 stops away from Kufa, Hur stopped him. At that point, Imam said to her, "Ala tarawna anna al-haq la yu'mal bih." Do you not see that haq is not being acted upon? Wa anna al-batil la yutanaha an. And people are not stopping batil and injustice. In this state, a mu'min deserves and likes and wishes, or he should wish to meet his Lord. This is not a society where one should stay alive. One has a duty here to perform. And then he was forced to change his course, and he entered the lands of Karbala on the 2nd of Muharram. And when he entered the land of Karbala, his horse stopped. He tried, but he did not move. He changed his horse once or twice. They also did not take a step forward. Then he asked his companions, "What is this land called?" They said, "This is called Ghazariya." "Does this have another name?" "Yes, it is called Nainawa." "Any other name?" They said, "It is also called Arz-e Karbin wa Bala," the land of grief and trial. Imam said, "This is the place where we will pitch our tents. This is the place where our blood will be shed. This is what my grandfather has informed me of." The caravan pitched their tents in the land of Karbala. And when the Imam stepped down, he recited a few verses of poetry. Lady Zainab Salamullah Alaiha, who was very nearby, she listened to those verses of the poetry. The verses of the poetry are something یا افن لکا من یا دہر افن لکا من خلیل یا دہر افن لکا من خلیل، اے زمانہ اف ہو تیرے دوستوں پر، وائے ہو تیرے دوستوں پر، کم لکا بالاشراق والاصیل من طالب و صاحب قتیل والدہر لا یقنع بالبدیل، اے زمانہ کتنے ہی تیرے ایسے دوست ہیں، کتنے ہی تیرے ایسے چاہنے والے ہیں جو تیرے طلبگار ہیں، اور تو نے ان سب کو قتل کر ڈالا، اور تو اس پر بھی راضی نہ ہوا، ان کی جگہ جن دوسرے لوگوں نے لی تو ان کو بھی قتل کرنے کے درپے ہے۔ وَكُلُّ حَيٍّ سَالِكٌ سَبِيلٍ، اور ہر زندہ اس راستے پر چل رہا ہے۔ ما اقرب الوعید من الرحیل، اس دنیا سے جانے کا وقت کتنا قریب آ چکا ہے۔ وَإِنَّمَا الْأَمْرُ إِلَى الْجَلِيلِ، اور تمام امور کی بازگشت رب جلیل کی طرف ہے۔ جب ثانیہ زہرا نے اپنے بھائی کے ان اشعار کو سنا تو گھبرا گئیں، جس حالت میں تھی، برہنہ پیر، لباس زمین پر سرکتا ہوا، بھائی کے قریب دوڑتی ہوئی آئیں، آ کر کہنے لگی اے بھیا، یہ جملے تو وہ شخص کہے گا جس کو اپنی موت کا یقین ہو چکا ہو، جس کو اپنی موت کا یقین ہو چکا ہو۔ کہا ہاں بہن، اس دنیا میں کوئی بھی نہیں رہا، ہمارے نانا بھی اس دنیا سے چل بسے، ہمارے بابا بھی اس دنیا سے چل بسے، ہماری ماں بھی اس دنیا میں نہیں رہی، بھائی حسن بھی نہیں رہے، ان قریب تمہارا بھائی بھی اس دنیا کو چھوڑ جائے گا۔ یہ جملہ سننا تھا کہ ثانیہ زہرا بے ہوش ہو جاتی ہیں، جب پانی چھڑکا گیا اور ہوش میں آئی تو میرے مولا نے ان کو صبر کی تلقین کی، کہا بہن صبر کرو، کوئی نہیں بچا اس دنیا میں، ان قریب میں بھی چلا جاؤں گا۔ میں کہتا ہوں ثانیہ زہرا، آپ اپنے بھائی کی شہادت کی خبر سن نہ پائی، آپ غش کھا کر بے ہوش ہو جاتی ہے۔ ایک مرتبہ روز عاشور آپ کا کیا حال ہوگا جب رخصت آخر کے وقت میرے مولا خیمے میں داخل ہوں گے، اس وقت آپ کا کیا حال ہوا ہوگا جب علی اکبر خیمے میں رخصت آخر الوداع کے لیے آئے ہوں گے، اس وقت آپ کا کیا حال ہوا ہوگا جب آپ تلہ زینبیہ پہ کھڑے ہو کر 70 قدم پر بھائی کو ذبح ہوتے دیکھ رہی ہوں گی، ایک ایک سے فریاد کر رہی ہوں گی۔ جب میرے مولا رخصت آخر کے لیے خیمے میں داخل ہوتے ہیں، بیویوں نے حلقہ باندھا، بیویاں رو رہی ہیں کہ ایک مرتبہ میرے مولا نے اپنی بہن سے کہا بہن وہ لباس جو میری ماں نے سیا تھا وہ لباس ذرا مجھے لا دیجئے، وہ لباس تھا جو فاطمہ سلام اللہ علیہ نے سیا تھا، اور امام نے اس کو اپنے بدن کے نیچے پہلا لباس پہنا تھا، کیونکہ جانتے تھے لعین اتنے شقی ہیں کہ شہادت کے بعد بدن سے لباس بھی لے جائیں گے، تو یہ وہ لباس ہے کہ کم سے کم یہ لباس میرے بدن پہ باقی رہے۔ ثانیہ زہرا نے وہ لباس آپ کو تقدیم کیا، میرے مولا نے وہ لباس پہننا شروع کیا، ثانیہ زہرا دیکھ رہی ہے، آنکھوں سے آنسو جاری ہے۔ ایک مرتبہ بھائی نے پوچھا بہن آپ کیوں رو رہی ہیں؟ کہا بھیا کیا آج تک ہوا ہے کہ کسی بھائی نے اپنی بہن سے کفن مانگا ہو؟ میں جانتی ہوں کہ یہی لباس آپ کا کفن بنے گا۔ میرے مولا نے اپنے دست امامت کو بہن کے سینے پر رکھ کے کہا صبر کرنا بہن، صبر سے کام لینا۔ ثانیہ زہرا نے کہا بھیا آپ کی بات ٹھیک ہے، بس مجھے اتنا بتا دیجئے کہ آپ کے جانے کے بعد جب بچے بابا بابا کہہ کر پکاریں گے تو میں بچوں کو کس طرح صبر کی تلقین کروں گی؟ جانتی تھی کہ یہ بھی ہونا ہے۔ امام حسین کے جانے کے بعد سکینہ نے بارہا بابا بابا کہہ کر بابا کو پکارا ہے جگہ جگہ، اور خاص طور پہ شام کے زندان میں وہ وقت آیا کہ خواب میں بابا کو دیکھ لیا، بیدار ہو جاتی ہے، کہا میں نے بابا کو دیکھا ہے، میرے بابا کہاں ہے؟ مجھ سے ملنے آئے تھے، میرے بابا کہاں چلے گئے؟ اتنا ماتم ہوا، اتنا نوحہ ہوا کہ یزید نیند سے بیدار ہو جاتا ہے۔ کہا یہ شور و غل کیسا ہے؟ کہا حسین کی بیٹی بابا کو مانگ رہی ہے۔ کہا تو پھر بابا کے سر کو کیوں نہیں بیچ دیتے؟ حسین ایک تخت میں حسین کے سر کو رکھ کے زندان میں بیچ دیا گیا۔ جب سکینہ کے سامنے وہ سر آیا اور کپڑا اٹھایا، ایک مرتبہ بابا کے سر کو دیکھا، اپنے رخسار کو بابا کے رخسار میں رکھ دیا۔ बाबा बाबा कहते अब जो शोरो फुगा बुलंद हुआ, मातम बुलंद हुआ, थोड़ी देर बाद बीबियों ने महसूस किया कि सकीना किया वो आवाज़ खामोश हो गई है। सकीना बीबी खामोश हो गई हैं। मालूम हुआ बाबा जो आए थे बेटी से मिलने, बेटी को अपने साथ ले गए। अला लानतुल्लाहि अलल कौमिज़ ज़ालिमीन। मातम हुसैन।
Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Bear it in your heart, the son of Fatima. Bear it in your heart, the son of Fatima. Warith of Adam wa Nuh Mustafa. Warith of Adam wa Nuh Mustafa. That Hussain ibn Ali al-Murtada. That Hussain ibn Ali al-Murtada, who defied every zulm of Ashqiya, with his final call you still reverberate. With his final call you still reverberate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Everyone! Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. He who taught us how to brave adversity. He who taught us how to brave adversity. Never compromise on your humanity. Never compromise on your humanity. He who fought malice with generosity. He who fought malice with generosity and became the standard of integrity. Only if his model we could emulate. Only if his model we could emulate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Everyone, Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your message is pristine and pure. Karbala, your message is pristine and pure. Never be unjust nor injustice endure. Never be unjust nor injustice endure. Wealth and power never should inspire awe. Wealth and power never should inspire awe. Everything you heard and everything you saw, till our final breaths we shall commemorate. Till our final breaths we shall commemorate. Till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Everyone, Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, you would be lost in history. Karbala, you would be lost in history. And Ali, Akbar, wa Abbas Jari. And Ali, Akbar, wa Abbas Jari. Were it not for your Sahib Binte Ali, were it not for your Sahib Binte Ali, in the court of arrogance and tyranny, now forever will your sermon resonate. Now forever will your sermon resonate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Everyone, Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Every Ashura we Shia must renew. Every Ashura we Shia must renew. Karbala's anthems in our character too. Karbala's anthems in our character too. Our mourning should inspire what we do. Our mourning should inspire what we do. Only then can we deliver what is due. Mawla, help our speech and actions integrate. Mawla, help our speech and actions integrate, till the skies illuminate with the light you radiate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Everyone, Karbala, your tragedy we will narrate. Ya Hussain, Ya Hussain. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Brothers and sisters, please take a seat. We will have a 10-minute session, question and answer session based on the Majlis today. As you know, some of you have sent questions via the web. Others are welcome to raise the questions live, and Maulana will try to answer it. We'll have a 10-minute session. Thank you.
As the mic is passed around, I'll try to answer one of the questions online. If Imam Hussain as-salam wanted, he could have defeated the Yazidi forces, but why did he choose sabr over killing Yazid? The answer was, I think, was given in the speech itself. That Imam Hussain as-salam did not, the objective and intent was not to kill Yazid, but to kill Yazidiyat, and he had realized that this battle is not going to be won with sword. It is to be won with the supremacy of blood over the sword. Yes. Wa alaikum assalam.
I have two questions related to today's sermon. I want an answer relating a connection between a verse in the Holy Quran that says, "Anna laysa lil-insani illa ma sa'a," and the Farman of Imam Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam, as you mentioned earlier, that whatever the state Allah puts us, we accept, and the will, we don't have any preferences, actually. So what is the relation between in these two things, and how can we assure ourselves that what is our hard work and what is the will of Allah? What is the connection between these two things as a call of Imam? And second question is, would you allow me to?
Sure.
The second question is, as you know, that technology is advancing day by day, and we all witness it. There are some procedures in medical sciences in which a couple is allowed to select the gender of its baby. So, can you connect these two things with the will of Allah?
Okay. So science would make progress, and it might be possible, and maybe it is now possible, where you can direct whether you're going to have a baby girl or a baby boy. That does not conflict with what we have said. It is whether the question that the Imam had asked him is whether would you be interested in deciding it for yourself, or would you let Allah decide? Right? So the answer was let Allah decide. So leaving it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to take a decision versus you yourself, it is not wrong for you to yourself decide, but that refers to one state of your iman versus where you surrender all your activities and all of your affairs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and let Him choose for you. So that is a totally different level of spirituality. So there are two different levels of spirituality, and there's nothing wrong with one or the other, but it just reflects two different states. With regards to your first question, "Laysa lil-insani illa ma sa'a," we see that a lot of the time you make a lot of efforts, but you do not end up getting what you're working for. One of the ways to look at this verse is in the spiritual realm, that if you want to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this world has its own dynamics of working. You might be working towards a goal, but because of certain obstacles, you might not achieve your goal. Or for example, 10 people working towards one post, not all of them can get there, only one of them will get, the others would not be able to, and maybe there's a more deserving candidate that has been deprived because of politics, or because of he does not have the influence to influence the mechanism of how he's going to get there. But in spirituality, in the spiritual realm, it's a fair game. So if you are striving to getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will get what you deserve. ऐसा नहीं होगा उसमें कि you make an effort to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but because you were not born in a certain family, you cannot get there. No. Allah will make arrangements that you get where you wanted to.
I have a very simple question. You said that Maulana Hussain asked people that which place is best. I think, in my opinion, I may be wrong, he must be knowing everything. Which place is that? Then why he asked this question?
Which question? Can you repeat the question?
Imam asked
Yes.
people that which place it is. I think that Imam knew that which place is this. So why he asked questions from others?
Yes, a very good question. The question doesn't stop here. This can be applied in a lot of different places. The Imam already knew that the people of Kufa would not be loyal to him. Why did he send Muslim bin Aqil there? To take and assess the state of the affairs. And so on and so forth. This question can be asked in a lot of different cases. The answer is that yes, even if the Imams know, it is their duty to deal with people in a manner that normal people deal with others. They would ask the normal questions, they would behave with them normally. They knew, for example, this person, for example, Ibn Muljim is there to kill Amirul Mu'mineen, but yet he would wake him up as a normal person would do. They are not allowed to use their ilm-e-ghaib for their personal reasons, for personal advantages. So even though they have that knowledge, but they're not allowed to interact with people based on that. Another answer would be if he did not ask these questions, then the tragedy of Karbala would not be as rich as it is today. It is because of these dialogues and these communications that happen that brings richness and exposes a lot of the hidden realities, these conversations. But the important answer is that the Imams and the Holy Prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though they knew the hidden realities, they are required to deal with people without using those realities. Wa alaikum salam.
In the sermon today, you mentioned why do humans suffer, but I was also wondering why do animals and the creatures of Allah suffer in this world if they're not being tested like humans are?
Can you explain your question in what sense?
So humans are a different type of creation that we have the potential to reach perfection, but animals are just this world and they're not being tested and they don't have free will like humans do. So why do they suffer and go on?
So sometimes animals suffer because of the way we deal with them. Right? You are being tested through that animal. The animals are not being tested. You are being tested in how you feed your pets, how you deal with them. Do you feed them properly? Do you give them food on time? And all the other things. Your dealings, it is your inappropriate dealing with the animals that result in their suffering. So this is a test for you, not for them. And they are a tool through which Allah is testing you and me. Does that answer your question to a certain extent?
But also because animals undergo their own sickness and death.
So that is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has set up this dunya. There has to be their sicknesses and their issues are a way for human knowledge to progress. So there is a discipline where you work on these animals and you treat them, and that helps science and medical science grow, and you take inspiration from that, and then you apply certain methodologies to humans, and you help develop cure for humans. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created those animals and everything other in this dunya for mankind. And this is part of the way they are created, that they will be sacrificed in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You slaughter them, you use them because Allah has granted us the permission to do that. Okay? So all those who do not believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they might not justify the right to eat meat, for example. What right they have to take a life? Right? Muslims can consume meat because we have been given this right by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Holy Quran. Okay? So if we eat meat, it is because of the God-given permission. We can justify that, but those who don't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it becomes very difficult on the basis of humanity and affection and passion for them to slaughter animals. So we are working in a different framework where we work in the framework provided by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then everything can be answered in that manner. Last question, inshallah. There are a couple of questions here as well, but we'll take one question from the audience. They will take preference, inshallah.
My question was that if you are a woman, Allah will take measures to protect your iman. When we talk about in terms of humanity, those measures have some limitations. We are told that we should protect our iman at all costs, but even there's a limitation to that. You can't, human life is too big for a cost for your iman. But when we talk about the with
specified protection of the Imam. So where do we draw the line for those measures and that cost, and the difference between those measures for us and the difference between those measures for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala?
We are subject to fiqh. We are subject to Islamic law. We are subject to religion. We have to operate within that framework. Just like Prophet Musa ﷺ was operating in that framework, that is why he objected to Hazrat Khidr taking a life. He objected to that to Prophet Khidr defecting, making a defect in the ship, because that goes against the dictates of religion. Okay? So we are operating in that realm, and we cannot go beyond the realms of religion. And that is why Prophet Musa his objections were genuine. The Prophet Khidr was operating at the level of angels. When Allah sends an angel to take a life, it is not injustice. This is the end of your life, and He has appointed someone, be it an angel of death or Prophet Khidr. So these are divine interventions by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as part of the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this is going to happen. So you do your effort in terms of within the framework of religion, that is what your limit is. And then have tawakkul on Allah and reliance on Allah that He will do whatever else is necessary to make sure that your iman is protected. But you have to do your part. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.